here's Brody Brazil.
Let's talk about winning a pro sports title here in the very unique year of 2020. What's it going to count for a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road? Will it be considered more or less than normal, or just the same? I'll try and answer that question in just a couple minutes, but first, let's paint this picture. We have yet to see any pro sports league award their respective title between the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. All three of these leagues have set up scenarios where they're going to be done playing their seasons before we get too deep into the fall months and potentially more concerns and complications with COVID-19. So they all want to get to this point within the next couple weeks and in a couple months. We've yet to really see what winning a title looks like here in 2020, but I can already offer you the mental imagery that it's going to be different. Celebrations aren't going to look the same. And maybe in hockey and basketball, where they've had tight bubbles this entire time, maybe they'll feel a little bit more comfortable with a champagne shower, a dog pile. Now, I know hockey doesn't necessarily do that until the very end, but maybe those scenarios will be a little bit more likely. And I also understand that baseball is trying to get themselves into a bubble type scenario for their playoffs. So maybe that could happen. Maybe the celebration of winning and advancing will happen. I'm not quite positive about that yet. But again, you can also understand that with empty stadiums and no fans, it's not going to be the same. All those majestic wide shots of the place going nuts and confetti falling and maybe viewing parties, right? When the team wins a title on the road or they win a playoff series on the road, everybody back home watching and the crowd erupts all at once. You're not going to see any of that. So I know we've talked about sports coming back, but nobody has really put their mind in a distant future to think, well, what's it going to be like at the very end? Because it is going to look a lot different. And in fact, titles are going to look and culminate a lot differently as well. There's not going to be a parade this time around for any team that wins it. At least there better not be. Right? You could celebrate when people are healthy again. But back to the question. Does winning a title, does it count the same here in 2020? Does it count for more? Does it count for less? How will it be viewed in the next 1, 5, and 10 years? I'm here right now in this moment to hope and to suggest that it should count at least as much, if not more, forever. For a couple different reasons. I understand the criticism that these teams are not going through their traditional marathon type grind, right? Playing 162 games of baseball alone is a challenge. Surviving that and then getting hot at the right time of year, that's tough enough. Basketball. Not traveling, not having to play a full 82-game season. Same thing with hockey, right? Hockey players physically are barely able to make it through an 82-game season and then have to go right into another second season where they can play 15, 20, almost 30 extra games. So all these grinds are not happening. So I understand that criticism that they didn't go through the gauntlet in the same way. But I would also offer you that they're going through something right now that no other professional athlete has had to do in the last 100 years. Keeping themselves healthy before anything else. And I don't mean just like healthy of a sore hamstring or a elbow that's ailing them. I'm talking about staying healthy in a pandemic, doing all the right things, precautions, staying healthy even from teammate to teammate, opponent to opponent. Departing all the routines they've ever known, training, practicing. You can't necessarily do everything that you were doing before to find success. A lot of those routines are flat out off limits. Teams are missing camaraderie. They're not able to really come together as a true team. And look, you can say that in bubbles like the NHL and NBA, it might be a little bit more like that than with baseball right now, where there's not officially or technically even a bubble at all, but it's still not the same. You cannot say it's the same at all. How about isolating from your family? Nobody's really talked about this. The NBA just finally allowed one family member, one extra person, to come join you in the bubble. It's hard if you've been away from your family, your children, whoever's important to you for even weeks, a week, let alone multiple weeks, let alone multiple months. Also, while the pressure and the stress of being a professional athlete to perform and succeed, while that's also on you at the same time, it's not easy. Again, these are things that athletes of 2017, 2013, 2004, 1987, they were not going through all this. But 2020 athletes are. So there's just a lot of extra commitment and sacrifices that these players are enduring right now. And I think that has to be considered. That has to be considered as much as anything else they're not doing traditional at this point. And if you still don't believe me, let me ask you this right now. What's your job? Is it easier right now than normal? Probably not. Everything you're doing requires 4 extra steps, 4 necessary extra steps. And so for athletes, it's the same way. Everything they're doing is tougher right now. So if you're telling me that your job is tougher and it counts the same, I'm here to tell you that a pro sports title here in 2020 is just as hard, if not more difficult, and should be counted for at least the same, if not more, in the years to come.